The boy always arrived just before sunrise, when the sky was still bruised with shades of purple and gold. His clothes were worn thin, his shoes were mismatched, and his eyes, though tired, held a quiet kind of hope. Every morning he'd sit at the far corner booth of Marlin's diner, his hands cupped tightly around the free glass of warm water the waitress placed in front of him. No one ever asked where he came from or why he always seemed alone. They simply knew he needed help. And even though the diner struggled to keep its doors open, they fed him daily without expecting a single coin in return. But on one particular morning, when a black luxury car rolled up outside and a millionaire stepped in with an expression carved out of cold stone, the boy's life changed forever in a way no one could have imagined. Before we go deeper, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and humanity still shining even in dark moments, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive. The boy's name was Eli, though he rarely said it out loud. At just 10 years old, he had already tasted more hunger and loneliness than most adults ever would. His mother worked whenever she could, taking temporary cleaning jobs that barely earned enough to keep the electricity running in their small, crumbling apartment. Many nights she returned home late, exhausted, whispering apologies as she handed him whatever scraps she could afford. But as work grew scarce, Eli started visiting the diner every morning, not because he wanted to rely on their kindness, but because hunger had a way of stealing the strength from his small body. Marlin's diner was old, the kind of place where the wallpaper peeled like tired skin and the wooden stools rocked under too much weight. But it was warm, and for Eli, warmth meant survival. The owner, Marlin, always pretended not to notice the boy slipping in. Instead, he would accidentally make an extra plate of toast or pancakes and set it near the corner booth. Eli would whisper thank you with his eyes, eating slowly, savoring every bite as though storing hope inside himself for later. But the diner was struggling. There were days when Marlin stared at the nearly empty register and wondered how much longer he could keep giving away food. Still, every morning he cooked a little extra. He knew what hunger could do to a child. Then one fateful morning, everything shifted. A sleek black luxury car stopped outside, drawing more attention than the diner had seen in years. A sharply dressed man stepped out, tall and elegant, wearing a suit that looked more expensive than the entire diner's monthly earnings. His name was Charles Abernathy, a self-made millionaire known in town for his towering wealth and even colder heart. Rumor said he never smiled, never gave freely, never cared. He entered the diner with the type of confidence that made the entire room tense. The waitresses straightened their aprons, Marlin wiped the counter twice, and Eli, sensing something different, pulled his small body tighter against his seat. Charles glanced around as though deciding whether the air inside was even worth breathing. His eyes stopped on the boy. First, Eli froze. Then, slowly, he lowered his gaze to the empty plate in front of him. But something about the boy's thin arms, his trembling fingers, or perhaps the quiet dignity with which he tried to hide his hunger pierced through the millionaire's hardened exterior. It wasn't obvious, not even to him, but something in his gaze shifted. Charles ordered breakfast, but he didn't eat. Instead, he watched as Marlin placed a warm plate of food in front of Eli. The boy's face lit up the way dawn breaks over mountains, quiet, humble, beautiful. He whispered a small thank you the way he always did, and that was the moment everything cracked open. Charles clenched his jaw. Memories he had buried for decades rose painfully, memories of himself at Eli's age, alone, hungry, abandoned after his mother died. No one had offered him food. No one had cared enough to look. But here, this diner, this struggling little place, fed a hungry boy every single day with nothing to gain. After several minutes of wrestling with the past, Charles abruptly stood and asked Marlin to sit with him. The entire diner held their breath. It wasn't every day the wealthiest men around called a meeting. What no one expected was what came next. Charles asked how long they had been feeding the boy. Marlin shrugged, embarrassed but honest. He told him he couldn't turn the child away, even if it meant losing money. The millionaire stared at him, stunned by the sincerity in the struggling owner's voice. Then Charles did something even he didn't understand. He asked for the boy's name. Eli lifted his head timidly, his voice barely a whisper. And when he said, "Eli," something inside Charles broke completely. In a quiet but firm tone, he announced that from that day forward, he would cover the boy's meals, his schooling, and whatever else he needed. The diner fell silent. Eli's eyes widened, filling with disbelief, as if afraid to breathe in case the moment disappeared. But Charles wasn't finished. He pulled out a checkbook and wrote an amount that made Marlon stagger backward. It was enough to save the diner, renovate it, and keep it running for years. Marlon couldn't speak. Charles simply placed the check in his hand and said he had never seen such kindness in all his life, and that such kindness deserved to live on. Eli's mother was called, and when she arrived, exhausted and anxious, she nearly collapsed when she heard what had happened. She tried to refuse, her pride trembling, but Charles insisted gently. He told her no child should suffer the way he once did. From that day on, Eli's life transformed. He went from a hungry boy in a corner booth to a child with hope, education, and a future. The diner thrived, becoming a symbol of kindness in the community. And Charles, the man once known for his cold heart, became a quiet guardian of those who needed help the most. If this story touched your heart, even a little, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps these messages of kindness reach more people. Before we end, speech balloon special request, comment, kindness lives on. If you believe small acts can change lives, and so, in a simple diner on an ordinary morning, a millionaire rediscovered compassion, a struggling owner was rewarded for his generosity, and one hungry boy's life changed forever, because sometimes, the greatest miracles begin with a single warm meal and an open heart.